The man accused of hitting and killing two Nevada state troopers last year was back in court today. Jamarcus Williams had a preliminary hearing where he faces multiple felony charges, including 2 counts of DUI resulting in death, 2 counts of not stopping at the scene of the accident, 2 counts of reckless driving, and also a few other misdemeanors. Williams is being represented by a public defender, and he's expected to be back in court on March 5th.